Hey Alisha, congratulations on this 710. So fourth time lucky, right?
Yes, thank you.
I've been thinking about that line for the last 5 minutes and it was like third time lucky, and then I was like, okay, finally fourth time lucky. Take me through your experience. So you've gotten two 680s, one 690, and now the 710. It's been a long and interesting, daunting experience for you. Take me through that experience.
So I started studying around July end 2019.
Okay.
I had e-GMAT at that time also. So I've been a very regular user and a big fan.
Hmm.
But at that time, I just wasn't using it right, at least in my first 2 months. So when I started studying in July, August 2019, I took the date for November 19. And I thought that, okay, 2, 3 months is going to be enough to do this. I made that you remember that study plan that you have, that
Yeah.
calendar thing?
The PSP,
I
yeah, the personalized study plan.
study plan. So I did that, and I was just trying to rush through everything without knowing my current capabilities, abilities, nothing.
Hmm.
And so I did SE. My focus was, I think I have to do a lot of questions, and that's
Hmm.
what's going to get me the score. Because you talk to these people and they're like, I did OG 3 times, and then I got
Yeah.
a 720 or something. I thought, okay, great, I'll do that. Uh, Started doing those SE questions on Scholarinium, unnecessarily wasted a lot of questions on Scholarinium and on OG, wasn't
Hmm.
getting accuracy. So after SE, instead of revising, okay, maybe there's something wrong here,
Hmm.
because the accuracy was inconsistent, I would say. So if I'm getting a 80% once, I'm getting
Hmm.
a 50% next time, which doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
So instead of going back to SE, I moved to CR. Not the right thing to do.
Hmm.
And so I just did verbal, verbal, verbal. And in October, I took a mock and I realized I got a 570, by the way,
Hmm.
on that mock. So this is after studying. And I knew that
Hmm.
November attempt is nowhere in the picture. I'm not taking it.
Yeah.
Then I pushed the date to December, but did not really change the way I was studying. I did go back to the SC course, but it was all haywire. Again, a bit of this, bit of that,
Hmm.
not reaching out to you guys to ask for like support at e-GMAT.com. Please help me. What should I do? So again, in December, when I started taking my mocks, I was getting 680 to 700. I knew it's not going to cross 700.
Yeah.
And that happened. I got a 680. I wasn't that upset with that attempt because I think the mocks had prepared me that this is what's going to happen. And I didn't
Yeah.
reschedule it.
Hmm.
Uh, so then I knew, obviously, I came out. I was like, okay, fine. Now it was around Christmas. I was like, okay, this is the time for celebration. I'll start studying in Jan.
Hmm.
Didn't happen because, once you give that break in GMAT,
Yeah.
that break extends. So I
True.
started studying again for my second attempt now. So now December 2019 is the first. Now we
Okay.
are in somewhere between March, April 2020.
2020. Yeah.
And I'm at home, so I was like, let's make use of this now. And
Hmm.
also, yeah. So at that time, I started studying, and I knew that I have to take it sometime in July because I was
Hmm.
starting a new job. And before that, I wanted to like take a break and do this.
Right.
Uh, Again, I knew I have to take it again, but I'm doing the same things. And at that time, I think I did get in touch with someone
Hmm.
from your team,
Yeah.
but didn't do that plan because Ashutosh wanted me to do verbal first and quant later, and I said no, I want to do quant first and verbal later because I'll forget. Uh, I don't know. I'll forget verbal if I do it first. Something like this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, so again, it was similar. Of course, I did learn something from my mistakes the first time around because now
Hmm.
I was a little more focused on, okay, if I'm getting this wrong, why am I getting this wrong? But what I was chasing was accuracy has to increase. I wasn't
Hmm.
chasing the fact that, okay, even if I'm missing the 10-20%, why is this getting wrong?
Hmm.
Because sometimes it can be 10-20% you're getting wrong. The next time
True.
it could be 40-50, but there was no focus on that.
Hmm.
So I went for my exam, and my mock scores were fine, by the way. Uh,
Hmm.
Again, inconsistent, of course. Sometimes I would get a V38, sometimes I'd get a V34. Once I got a V41, but there was no consistency again.
Hmm.
I thought that, okay, this time I think I'll hit a 700 or so because my mocks were still 710, 740, some 680. I
Hmm.
left with a 680 and V35 said 34. It was 34 this
Got
time.
it. Okay.
So this time I was devastated. I was like, no, this is not happening, and I don't know what to do. My confidence was just here. Okay.
Hmm.
Ki, I don't know anything. I am never going to get this. But again, now I thought, okay, I'll start everything from the beginning.
Hmm.
And this time I thought, okay, I'll do quant, but I'll do it properly, like everything, back from the basics. Because I never focused much on quant initially.
Hmm.
I was
And
just
you still
managing.
decided to do quant first and then verbal later. Got it.
But this was in the fourth attempt also, but it worked
Hmm.
somehow. I'll tell you why.
Hmm.
So in the third attempt, now I did started with quant.
Hmm.
But now the issue is that because I always had that feeling that quant is still manageable, ho jayega attitude.
Hmm.
So I started with a bang, like I was very focused, very consistent, but then slowly I just stopped. And once you have a course subscription which is valid for 6 months,
Hmm.
I think they should not exist because then you're like, okay, I still have some time to do this. So I think I was fine in July, sometime in August, then
Hmm.
September dropped, October again began. And that's not how GMAT prep works. That's just
Yeah.
not how GMAT can work. So now, I think by November, mid, I was like, okay, let's stop on, let's do verbal. Again, the same thing for verbal.
Hmm.
Like I'm just doing questions, doing random things, reading my notes, which are also not absolutely comprehensive, taking someone else's notes, reading them, which were still comprehensive. They were all like from e-GMAT because I think everyone in my circle
Yeah.
uses e-GMAT.
Yeah.
But still, I think a better thing would be figure out where are you weak, go watch the videos again, or just do something of the sort.
Hmm.
And now this time I thought that because I know people who just took the exam like this, thinking that they went with a very chill attitude. So I'm just going to take my date randomly. So
Okay.
one day I was starting on 2nd January and on 3rd morning I wake up, 3rd January,
Hmm.
I woke up and I'm like, okay, why don't I take the exam today? My
Hmm.
New Year break is also ending. I'll just take it.
This is 2021. Now we're in 2021.
Now, 2021. This is my
Okay.
third attempt. I took
Hmm.
it Q49, B35. Again, obviously the verbal score was going to remain the same,
Hmm.
right? And after this, again, I was just like, my confidence was further down. And of course, it was my fault in hindsight.
Hmm.
And now I reached out to you.
Hmm.
And thank you for existing. Thank you for, for everything you did
Hmm.
and for that session. So now we should probably talk about this attempt
Yeah,
after
we
I
should.
discuss
We should.
about.
But I'm gonna put a hold to that before we move into this attempt. Three attempts, three similar but slightly different approaches, thousands of questions practiced, countless minutes of notes revised. What would your takeaway for a student who kind of is lost, wants to take the GMAT, wants to do well? What is your advice to them?
Buy e-GMAT subscription, watch all the videos, like right from master comprehension
Hmm,
to the last RC video in verbal. Now
hmm,
quant again, the quant course is by the way amazing, the new
hmm,
one. So and same for quant,
hmm,
and just follow the concepts the way they're teaching. Make notes, do whatever you have to do. Follow the process. Apply that process first in the concept files, then in the cementing stage, and
hmm.
then move forward. Don't waste questions. You can do 50 questions and still achieve. I think you can get a V40 also just by
You
doing
can.
50, 60 questions if
You
you're
can.
doing it right.
True.
But just this approach of doing question after question after question is not going to help anyone.
Golden words, huh, by the way. Trust me, these are golden words, and I'm going to use your words to a student who says, "I just want to practice and improve my accuracy and timing. That's all that I want to do in life." Let's talk about your fourth attempt. So you got your ESR for the third 690 attempt, and we discussed it. What were the main takeaways from you from that ESR analysis?
So in that session when we talked, we established that RC was a weak area,
Hmm,
which I had anyway told you it was a weak area. But the
hmm,
issue was uh, RC was one weak area. SC was Scholaranium said something, but the ESR said something else. So
hmm,
there were clearly gaps over there.
hmm,
And one big issue was the timing problem, where we figured out that I'm not letting go of questions,
hmm,
which I think you only made me realize it. I knew it, but I didn't know it was such a big problem that it was affecting my scores so much.
hmm.
Not just in Google, also in quant,
Yeah.
because approach does not change. So I think those were a few things. And in quant, one more thing that we figured, because I told you that my Q49 felt like a fluke to me,
Hmm,
right? So we figured out that okay, geometry, algebra, that area was slightly
hmm,
weak, and we all did all this based on the first two ESRs, and the third we made that analysis ourselves. You
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
because I'd given you data points, and I
Hmm.
remembered very clearly which question did I falter on,
Hmm.
which quadrant was I struggling for time, etc.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I think your inputs for those sessions were equally important as much as mine, because had you not talked about how your exam actually went, even me guessing what happened in the ASR wouldn't really make a lot of difference, to be very, very honest. So out of that session, we came up with a plan for your quant. So we addressed your quant first, as always. What was that study plan? What did it entail?
So this time, the way I was studying, why I felt it was different. I was, of course, watching the videos again, but
Yeah.
these videos were different from the first time, whatever, because you had revamped the course
So
completely
you're talking about the Quant 2.0 course.
on 2.0. Yeah.
Hmm.
So this time I was using Quant 2.0.
Hmm.
I was watching the videos, but there are enough data points within the course itself
Hmm.
to make you understand, okay, this is probably okay, this is not so good, and
Hmm.
you can probably watch the videos again or do whatever before
Hmm.
moving on to cementing. And once I would reach the cementing stage, which of course I used to keep you updated that okay, this is what
Yeah.
I've done, I'm cementing. Uh, the error logs, they were really helpful, and the way of approaching the questions, that okay, this is, you read a question statement, you
Hmm.
make an inference out of it, you visualize, no, you understand the constraints, you start visualizing it.
Hmm.
Those things were alien to me before this. I
Yeah.
did not know that you're supposed to do all this. And the whole process thing, that I watched the quant 2.0 with the basic process files, the
The
ones
process
initially
skills. Yeah.
process, yeah. So I knew that okay, is this a concept gap, is this a process gap, and if it is a process gap, did I make the same mistake earlier?
Hmm.
And if I would make the same mistake twice or thrice, then of course I understand, I can only track it if I have it noted down somewhere on
Hmm.
an Excel or wherever, I mean Google Sheets,
Yeah.
whatever. So I think that helped a
Got it. So
lot.
I think the process skills is very, very close to Pylan's. It's her baby, and the expert engine of really taking the diagnostic quiz and letting the course telling or tell you what to do specifically. So you can score really well on a certain topic because you're good at it. You don't necessarily have to go through everything. So I think that really speeds up the rate at which you are finishing the course along with quality.
Yeah, because so what I was doing was, initially when I started
Hmm.
started with geometry this time.
Hmm.
There the diagnostic quiz was telling me that you can skip this, but because I was so scared that now if I skip this, something bad will happen, so I was by the time I reached some part of, I think, word problems, I used to trust the diagnostics, and when it would tell me. So the first diagnostic was more of process on GMAT skills, and the second one was more about concept. So
Hmm.
that time I started trusting it, that okay, if the file is telling me that I can skip this, then I will skip it.
Got it. Again,
So
it's part of that process itself, right? So I think what I really liked, and this is something I've always told you as feedback as well, is the detail in how you wrote your error logs. You had some very, very nice comments as well. And that just tells me that you literally sat on the question and you really, really asked yourself that why the heck did I get it wrong? Like, or why the heck did I get it right? I just wasted 3 minutes on this, seriously. So I think that was very important. That was key in you moving on from your quant woes or your quant confidence, because you already had a 49. At the end of the day, you just had to get a little bit more confident. I can score a 49 or a 50 on the test again if I have to. Now
mhm.
let's talk about verbal. You went back to verbal for a few things. What were those few little things that you went back to verbal for?
So this time I started, of course, this flow is, this time actually I did CR before SC.
Hmm,
That was one small difference. So in CR, I started with just brushed up, what is it that I know, what is it that I don't know. But I watched the assumption files again.
hmm,
The And I think once you do assumption, if you have done the whole course before, I
hmm,
think it just brushes up the strength and weaken type of questions also, because the pre-thinking basically I had to revise.
hmm,
So I watched all of that again, did the concept files for everything in CR again.
hmm,
So now my basics were again, like, I had revised it. And
hmm.
after 2 years almost, I'd watched those videos, because I think the last time would have been October 19 or something.
Did you
So
learn
that's
something new?
um not new, I would say, but I think a lot of things which I wouldn't have focused on that much. Like in assumption, also you
Yeah,
have pre-think, you have different kinds of questions, right?
yeah.
So I think it helped. But what helped even more, like once I did this, I went to GMAT Club, looked at 700 plus questions for because by the way, one very important thing we missed was that I had exhausted all my questions on Scholarly
Yeah.
and all. And if you guys had not added new questions, because I saw a lot of new questions being added, it would have been an issue.
Yeah.
So now I looked at all these 700 plus level questions and I picked 10 or 15
Hmm.
and I started making solutions for those myself. So I'm sitting here visualizing what the statement is saying,
Hmm.
what's the premise, what is the conclusion, what is the pre-thinking that I need to do here, and
Hmm.
I come up with the solution myself, and then I note it down, like the way you see expert solutions on GMAT Club
Yeah.
or on Scott. So I started doing all of that, which really solidified my CR understanding also.
Hmm.
I would so that helped.
That's
Um,
very interesting actually, because I mean, I'm sure that you didn't set a timer on this. You took your time and you just created the entire solution on your own. This is a very cool thing actually. We should do this with more people. Oh yeah, carry on please.
this came from your team only.
So the
Yeah.
the the behind the scene members of the team
See,
that we shall not name here, but I think those members are more to really play a role in your success than even me. I just wanted to point that out very, very clearly. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad it worked. I'm glad that this worked. What did you do in SC then and RC?
so in SC, first I think I just went through my notes, of course,
Hmm.
and I could see this time I could see that this is not enough. This
Yeah.
is really not enough. There's something missing here. So instead of starting all the questions and all, I went first to, of course, I picked up a quiz, some
Hmm.
10 or 15 medium questions.
Hmm.
My accuracy was not good, but now at least I figured out it was 60%, I think, which is
Hmm.
of course not good for medium. But this time, even if I was getting a question right, I was like, I think I was not very confident here.
Hmm.
So that's how I picked up two topics where I knew there are clearly gaps,
Hmm.
right? And so I went back to the videos, watched the whole thing, and now this time I was, and again made notes, fresh notes this time,
Hmm.
because I think in SC that helps to some extent.
That does.
Uh, and again, of course, did the concept files over there.
Hmm.
So, and after this, when I hit the questions again, my
Hmm.
confidence was off the charts. Now, this time I knew ki I understand this, I get a hang of this, and if I get something wrong.
Hmm.
Now, the issue was still a bit of process application skills that, even after e-GMAT telling this to you 500,000 times that you have to understand the meaning first, somehow I was skipping on that part,
True.
and you can't mix cementing with timing so much
Yeah.
that okay, which is why you give that cementing. There are two modes, right?
Yeah.
So
Standard and relaxed. Yeah. Yeah.
and I started focusing heavily that even if it takes me 3 minutes this time, I have to get it. Or if I am
Hmm.
stuck, if this is a test readiness quiz where I have to let go of questions,
Hmm.
then I'm going to let go of it. But after that, I am going to give it every possible ounce of energy I have to just get the meaning first.
Hmm.
Because if I don't understand it, I can't move forward.
Hmm.
Grammar, of course, plays a role, but this is the primary thing I feel. So
Hmm.
I think the whole heavy focus on process, and then the error logs for both CR and SC.
Hmm.
If I had made it for RC, I think I would have reached an even better score. But
Hmm.
for both the I think that helped. And error logs again, as you said, that the
Hmm.
detail. You guys
And
give
these
some
are the new strategic review and error log videos, right?
yes, yes, which are of course different from the older ones. And I think you didn't have it earlier for RC. Now you do.
Now we do. Now we do. I mean, there was always the need for it, and we always had the team to kind of create it. So we just went out and made it this time, and I think they're really, really good now. Okay, so we fixed all issues that you had from your ESR. Now we move on to the final phase, which is test readiness, and that hyper-specific plan that I shared with you. How important is just going through that entire process of test readiness, and how did it help you letting go of questions eventually on the test?
So test readiness. So now if I have everything, I have the tools in place that okay, and my process in place. So I know the
Hmm,
concepts, I know what I'm supposed to do for an SC question, for a CR question, or for an RC question.
hmm,
Now the thing is, it's not possible. For some people it might be, but if you have a 36 question quiz, you don't have to know every possible answer to every possible question.
yeah,
And it is going to happen that you might take more time on solving one hard question,
true.
or you might even get stuck on a medium question because you missed something. It
Yeah,
can happen,
yeah,
but you have to like make up for it somewhere. Or when you're looking at a question, in the first 40, 50 seconds, you have to get a hang of. I don't understand this. This is something that is going to take me time, and
Hmm.
I have to, let it go. What I was doing in my initial attempts, which we realized in in my ESR analysis, that
Hmm.
the first quadrant was so important for me that my life depends on it. And
Yeah.
even if it takes me 25 minutes on that, I would just give it 25 minutes, sometimes even more, which I
Yeah.
don't want to mention the number.
Hmm.
Uh, and that was not helping. So the way you taught me that I have to let go of this thing. I have to skip questions. And the thing is that NLG, not letting go.
Yeah.
So that was constantly on my mind. And I wrote it on my whiteboard before starting the exam.
Hmm.
So again, I would say that in the so I didn't have enough marks and I was relying on the quizzes the way you suggested. So
Hmm.
there, whatever time you would suggest, I would either give that or even 1 minute less than that.
Perfect. Perfect.
That I am forced to let go of the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would really note one more thing that
Hmm.
it also used to happen. There's this mentality I at least had, I don't know about others,
Hmm.
that you look at one question and you're like, okay, no, I'm going to spend effort solving this, but
Hmm.
I'll make up for it with some other question. It really hurts when you spend time on one question and you get that wrong, and the next question was easy,
Yeah.
but you get that wrong also because you don't have time. So don't do it. Let go of questions.
Yeah, I think this coming from you is a true win for me because I mean you having to do that was I mean changing a habit is very difficult by the way, and I think test readiness does teach you balance. How do you balance your time, and how do you let go of your ego to do well on the GMAT? That's very important. Um, the interesting portion, Alicia, in your case was that, again, like you mentioned, the lack of mocks. But we didn't need them because you did test readiness the right way. And you took one official mock before the test, right?
Yeah, because I had only.
Exactly. What was your experience just giving that mock confidence wise after putting in all of this time and work?
So one thing that happened, so before the mock, there was a quiz I took the night before.
Hmm.
On that, I didn't get a very impressive score.
Hmm.
So I was in the day I was thinking, should I let this affect me or should I take it? Like, should I even take the mock? What if I get a bad score? What
Yeah,
if that anchoring happens that this is what's going to
true.
happen? But somehow I just took a nap for half an
Hmm.
hour and I thought I'm going to get ready and I'll take it. So my
Hmm.
exam was at 4 p.m. So I
Hmm.
was like 4 p.m. I'll be ready for my mock also.
Hmm.
And then it was just about, I have to do this, I have to do this, and I'll take it. So
Hmm.
I think the confidence was perfectly fine.
Hmm.
During the talk, of course, I got stuck at some places, but I was trying really hard that,
Hmm.
I have to just skip. If
Hmm.
I got lucky on a few questions,
Hmm.
despite skipping, I got it right.
Hmm.
So the score was very impressive.
Hmm.
But I think it really and it helped in getting confidence for the exam, and otherwise also in testing the strategy that okay, if tomorrow is my exam, what am I supposed to do right now?
Hmm.
So it worked.
So here's how I look at it. When you do well on a mock before the test, never get too overconfident and look at what could possibly have gone wrong. So at that point, you're just mitigating possible failure. If you did do well, take it in the sense that this was the right place to fail. The mock was the right place to fail. And the exam is the right place to fix those issues. So you take those issues and then you work on them. And of course, you scored a 710 at the end of it. Yeah, all in all, if you have to sum up your four takes into probably a line or two on what you should do to kind of ace the GMAT, what would you say?
Going back to something I said before, follow
Hmm,
e-GMAT, do it once, do it right. Make error logs,
hmm,
and so definitely like the third one is very important, and the fourth one is connected to the third. So if you get 20% or 30% also on a quiz, don't get disheartened. Just figure out where was the gap and
hmm,
fix it. Making mistakes is fine. This is something I've learned from EGMAT only.
yeah.
Making mistakes is fine, but making the same mistake again is not fine. So you punish yourself for that, like penalize it. Be very self-critical. I think these things really help.
Got it. I think very valuable words, Alicia, and I think you got the help of probably the best people that you can have around you at this point of time in the GMAT industry. So I think you're also fortunate in that sense. And yeah, again, congratulations on the 710. Don't get too greedy for a higher score. Work on your applications now. And yeah, stay in touch, please.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.